Hey guys, so today I wanted to bring you an updated Cyber Dragon deck profile for October because I did revamp my list quite a bit since my last one, and I decided to turn back into the Machine Dupe variant because I find I always fall back to this version because I just personally like the playstyle better, and to account for this change I did try to fit more hand traps than I used to have. So we don't really have many events right now, but I did finish first place at my remote duel locals recently with this list, and I'll talk a bit more about the tournament at the end of the video so that we can just go to the profile first. So if you guys want to see more Cyber Dragon deck profiles and gameplay footage, then make sure to like the video and subscribe. So enough rambling on, let's start with the main deck. So of course we're going to play the 3 core, the 3 hertz, the 3 original Cyber Dragon because we are playing the Machine Dupe variant, and 2 Naxers. So that's it for these Cyber Dragon monsters. So one notable exclusion you'll notice is that I don't play the Fear, and I generally don't in the Machine Dupe variant. I did previously in the recent list because I just wanted to kind of help turbo into Anaconda, but I am trying out Monster Reborn instead, and I'll talk about that in a bit later. And the thing with Fear is that, it is a good card and chain blocking core is nice, but the problem is a lot of times you're searching emergency or repair plan off of core to find that missing piece so that you can do your Galaxy Soldier and Hertz play. And if you chain block your opponent from ashing you on the core, then they can just ash you when you activate that emergency or repair plan that you just searched off anyways. And if they have an Imperm or Veiler, then you can't chain block either. Although of course if your opponent has Gamma, then Veer can be pretty nice. And another thing with Fear is that it can make you more susceptible to Nibiru. So for example, let's just say you normal summon the core and then chain, to summon the Veer, ignore the different colored sleeve for now. And let's say you get the repair plant, and then now you need to get a Cyber Dragon Engrave to activate repair plant. So let's just say, in this case, let's just say you contact fuse the way for a Mega Fleet. So that's a 3rd summon, and then you play the repair plant, and then you bring out 2 soldiers, so the 2nd soldier becomes your 5th summon, and then you get Nibiru'd and you kind of just don't have a play afterwards. Whereas if you kind of just did the core and then you do your repair plant, Cyber Dragon Hertz and Galaxy Soldier play, then your Nova becomes your 5th summon, and when you get Nibiru'd you can bring out the Rampage and you could potentially extend further. So that's something to consider. But again, I'm not saying that it's a bad card. I do play it in the no dupe variant just to have enough Cyber Dragon monsters in the deck because you only play 1 Cyber Dragon in that list. But that's just what I think, and if you want to play Fear, then definitely go for it. Next, we have the 2 soldiers, and then we also have the 1 Jizuku now. I cut it down to 1 to fit more hand traps. And also, we're not seeing Dragoon as much as I thought. For example, you look at the Luxury Championship Series 6, the top 16 list, only 2 of them play Dragoon because the top decks like Dragon Link and Infernoble and Dinosaurs, for example, they don't need to play Dragoon. We do play Pankratops because, well, for going 2nd deck, it's just really good. High attack and beat over a lot of monsters, and also you can use it to pop Spell and Trap for kind of back row decks. As for hand traps, we are playing 2 Ash, 3 Drolls, 2 Nibiru. I do have the 3rd Nibiru in the side, and also if you include the Imperm that I will show once we get to the trap section. So that's 10 hand traps in total, which is kind of disgusting that we're at that point where we have to play so many hand traps in the main deck. And arguably, really, you could say that I could play even more. And so to kind of discuss them, Nibiru, like the top decks can kind of play through or around it, but it's still a good hand trap. It's also a light, so you can pitch it for Galaxy Soldier when you don't need it. Droll, because Dragon Link, they do search quite a lot. And even like, for example, Invoked Dogmatika lists, when you droll them after the Meltdown search, for example, it can be really good. And then Ash, because it's pretty generic and it's just good in all formats for the most part. Next, we do play the Dragoon package with Red Eyes Dark Magician and the Red Eyes Fusion. And to be honest with you, drawing this like late game turns out it was pretty good. I mean, in at least 2 of my matchups at locals, I drew this late game and it's just single-handedly won me the game, whereas any other card I just would have lost because it just brings out this big monster, he pops and burns, and then you attack them afterwards. It just does a lot of damage. So not too bad if you do hard draw it, at least late game. Onto the spells, so we do have the 3 Cyber Emergency, 1 Ref System. So I really like Ref System. I know many players don't play it, but for example, I tend to search this a decent amount of times in case where I want to really try to kill them that turn, and it helps me play through Nibiru and kind of extend further, so I really like it. Not to mention, if you have core, then you can just search this, and let's say you have no other plays, then you can like go into Almirage with core, use this to bring back core, and then go into Anaconda and bring a Dragoon. So core becomes this 1-card Dragoon now because of Ref System. And then I did cut down the repair plant just to 1 now, because I mean I am playing 1 Jizukuru now instead of 2, and this kind of works out now, and so it's been fine so far. So we are playing the dupe variant, so of course we play the 3 machine dupes. Explosive card, also good when you're kind of forced to go first and helps you bring out the bodies, but of course it can sometimes be a dead card, especially in late game when you already used up all your Cyber Dragons. But I still like the playstyle, and it's up to you whether you want to play this variant or the no dupe variant. I like both. Overload Fusion, of course, for enabling OTKs. Admittedly, I don't send this card with Anaconda nearly as much anymore because I'm bringing up Dragoon instead, but definitely really good card, and I would not cut that. And as always, Foolish Burial, it has lots of uses. You can send the core so that you can banish it, give yourself a baby Cyber Dragon for a machine dupe target when you didn't draw one, and you can send the Hurts to bring back whatever baby Cyber Dragon monster you need in your grave, and also just you can try to bait out the Ash with this as well. Next, as I mentioned earlier, I am trying out Monster Reborn now for a couple of reasons. One, just to give you that extra body when you need it, if you don't have a good hand, for example, so that you can turbo into Anaconda. And we are going second, so Monster Reborn pretty much will likely always be live. And not to mention, if your Dragoon gets outed, you can bring it back with Monster Reborn, although you won't have its pop and burn effect anymore, but at least it's still a big body that's hard to out, and it can negate and destroy. We are playing the 2 Lightning Storms. Honestly, you could just maybe play just like additional hand traps instead of these, for example, because I know it is an expensive card, and I just kind of wanted a generic board wipe card. Of course, this can conflict with Nibiru though, if you were to draw like both, because if you use Nibiru on your opponent's turn, then you have a face-up card, so you can't use this anymore. But to draw at least one of those two, like at least one Nibiru and at least one Storm, it's about 7% chance, so it's not that common of recurrence, and I'm still thinking about whether I want to replace this with additional hand traps or maybe something else, but I like it for now. And then finally onto the traps, we do have the 3 Imperms that I mentioned earlier to round out our hand trap lineup. Very good card, going for a Source Second, and of course our Cybernetic Overflow, very good card. So onto the extra deck, we have the Almirage, Seeger for OTKs. I do like to play Nightmare Phoenix. It does come up sometimes where you have to kind of pop their Floodgate or something like that. Anima, really good card, honestly. You can suck up your own Jizukuru, you can suck up the Nibiru token that you give to your opponent, so just make the habit of putting those monsters under the extra monster zone. And then Verde Anaconda, of course, to bring out Dragoon or Chimera Tech Rampage Dragon. Funny thing with Verde Anaconda and Dragoon, in one of my matchups, I needed Dragoon to be at 4,000 attack to have enough damage to go for game. And what I did was I used Anaconda's effect to target Infinity, change it to Dark, and then I used Dragoon, negate and destroy my own Anaconda, so that Dragoon pumped up to 4,000 attack, and then I attacked with Infinity on his defense position monster, and then attacked for game with Dragoon because my opponent was at 4,000 life points. So that's a line of play that is available, so keep in mind of that. Okay, and then like always, I always play the 2 Novas and 2 Infinities because I do like to bring back the Nova with Naxture so that I can go into the Infinity with a material on the summon. And then also, if your opponent does play Maximus and you send out the, one of the Novas so that you can bring out your Mecha Buff, for example, then you still have the other Nova that you can summon out properly. And of course, our pretty big boss monster, Dragoon. Onto our Chimera Tech monsters, so we have the Fortress, 2 Mega Fleet, and the 1 Rampage. For the Mega Fleet, you can honestly go with just one. Sometimes the second one comes up, but really this is just kind of a flexible card that you can put in with something else that you want. And then the Rampage, really love this card, enables your OTKs, and you know, just sending like the Hertz and Core with Rampage just to add back that Core to hand. It's just a really good card. And lastly, we do have the Mechaba that can come out of the Nova when it gets Nibiru'd, or if your opponent plays Maximus and uses its effect, then you can send the Nova and then bring out this guy. So on to the side, we do have the third Nibiru, and then we play the 3 Lancias. So if you saw my recent video of the breakdown of the top 16 deck list from the Luxury Championship Series 6, you'll know that, you know, Lancia was played in 9 of the 16 decks, and it's just really good against dinos. You know, a lot of times, like if you just play it, they'll just have to pass. Not to mention, it's also good against invoked engines because, you know, it can stop the invocation, and it's also good against rogue decks. I mean, Orcus, with the return of Rusty, I thought I'd see more of Orcus, but I haven't. But it's obviously good against them, and if you were to see like the odd Gren Maju decks here and there, then hey, that comes up handy as well. And then we also play the 2 Forbidden Droplet. This one, honestly, it can be Dark Ruler, and I'm thinking of that as well. Again, in that LCS top 16 breakdown, only 3 decks play Dark Ruler, because players are just opting to choose to play more hand traps instead, because in for Noble Knights and Dragon Link, they can just rip the card out. But one thing with Forbidden Droplet, because it's a quick play spell, it does give me the flexibility, because, you know, if I'm forced to go first, then I can at least set it and still use it in games where I'm not sure where my opponent's going to go first or second. And then some more back row hate. So we have the 2 Cyclones, the Feather Duster, and we're playing 2 Evenly and then the 1 Red Reboot. So along with this and then 2 Storms in the main, that's 8 back row hate cards dedicated, and that's kind of the max that I want. Like realistically, I can't side too much more than that. I mean, you can also fit the Pancratop, so that can be 9, but that's more than enough. So I like the ratio for these. And then of course, lastly, the 3 summon limits that I always like to side for when I think I'm going first, or when I intentionally choose to go first, which happens quite a bit nowadays because I just don't want to get my hand ripped. So, you know, all Cyber Dragon decks, if you're a pure going second build, you should have, you know, 3 spots dedicated to a going first card, and there's different options. You know, summon limit, you have Artifact Sanctum Scythe package, that's 4 cards though. You also have Heat Wave, so there's different cards, but I personally like summon limit. Okay, so that's it for the deck list. So I guess to briefly talk about my locals, so I basically went XO after 4 rounds, where I faced Dragon Link, Invoked Dogmatika, and then finally Heroes, which was ironic that after going through tier 1 decks, that the deck that was waiting for me in the final round was another Rogue deck. To be fair, it was my good friend playing Heroes, and he is a really good player. And I'll make sure to bring you that Remote Duel replay and maybe one of the Dragon Link matchups. And honestly, for all 4 matches, Dragoon was the MVP and it won me the games. The Dragon Link match, both of them, they went into game 3, and it's honestly like a super intimidating matchup. In game 3 against one of the Dragon Links, I had the Droll, so he didn't have a really good end board, so I cleared through that and OTK'd. And the other Dragon Link player, he didn't open that well in game 3, and I did have the Kaiju in hand, so it was enough for me to kind of just plop over the Savage and just like kind of go for damage, and there's time went around. And then Invoked Dogmatika and Heroes, I did win 2-0 for each of them with the help of Dragoon, but it was honestly a hard-fought 2-0. It really was not easy, and I'm excited to bring you that hero replay soon. That was like a GX era battle right there. Anyways guys, that's it for my October list and tournament report. Hope you found that helpful, and like I said earlier, I do have some more remote duel footage I'll bring, and I'll try to bring some dueling book replays in the meantime as well. Take care guys.